There is no cutting muscles, there's no cutting nerves, there's no slicing through fascia,
Botox.
There's no magic, there's no Botox, there's no poison, there's no toxin, there's no fix. There isn't magic. What we need to do together is help your child learn to align his body, keep it there, balance his trunk and hips, help him stabilize.
Olá, Fisio Vital, tudo bem com vocês? Nós estamos hoje aqui com a Beverly Cusick, fisioterapeuta conhecida mundialmente, criadora do Theratogs. Hoje nós vamos falar um pouquinho sobre como aconteceu o Theratogs, como é que ela chegou no Theratogs, quais foram as dificuldades que ela teve durante a prática de fisioterapia dela que fizeram que ela criasse o Theratogs. Beverly, hi my dear, how are you?
I'm fine today, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is a real honor to talk to you today.
Thank you. I want to ask you first, how did you invent the Theratogs?
Well, I was a physical therapist trained in 1974 to teach children how to move with neurodevelopmental treatment. But I discovered that my treatment sessions were remarkable, successful, that I could actually help a child who is inside this body that's difficult to move kind of emerge. I could find a different person in there, a child who could do more things, who had better balance, who had better muscle tone. And then I discovered that to make that change last required that I do therapy all day. And I could never do therapy all day.
Training,
and practice. And the issue of practice became very clear. So for about 25 years, I tried to give parents equipment to set their children up in at home to help them carry over their therapy. And then I tried to give them cast boots and orthoses for their foot and ankles to help them carry over their therapy. And none of that actually made it to teaching them how to move. So finally, after discovered some taping techniques and some taping techniques, I learned that there was a way to align a child with some help while they could still move. And then I thought, I need to do this with something else. I need Velcro-sensitive skin that I could snap muscles on, so if a child needs to practice living in alignment, he could live in a body that's better aligned under his clothes. So that started in 1997.
Oh.
I had that idea and began looking for Velcro-sensitive skin and some way to do this. And by 2002, I had it figured out, that there was a way to make a system for a child that they could wear under their clothes that would give them the practice that is necessary for them to learn what I saw them do in therapy. What I saw they could do, but they had to have enough practice to do it. So that's how that happened.
Então, assim, eles poderiam ficar mais tempo, né, com aquele posicionamento correto que ela estava falando durante a terapia. So like that, they will be able to stay on the position that you put on therapy longer, all day long. That's it.
Exactly. They wouldn't learn all the tricks they learned in therapy, but they would do what they do all day in the alignment that I needed them to be in, that I could make happen in therapy.
Oh, great. But the Theratogs, his objectives is for all kids, is for all kind of difficulties that the kids have?
Actually, I've discovered that Theratogs can only do what a therapist can do. So they are basically my therapy hands gone home with the child to carry on what I could do. So if I had a child that I could not correct the alignment on with my hands, not for Theratogs. If I have a child who cannot respond because he doesn't have nerves, is paralyzed and there's no sensation, Theratogs don't work. So they're not really for everybody, they're for anybody that you can take a child and facilitate a change with your hands. They react by responding with their body, and yet they can't keep it up because they haven't had enough practice. That's who they're for.
Então, pelo que a gente trabalha e conhece do Theratogs, então o Theratogs, ele consegue organizar o corpo da criança que você consegue organizar com as suas mãos. Então, o que ela está dizendo é o quê? Que a gente consegue, se eu consigo organizar o corpo da criança com a minha mão, ou seja, dar um input sensorial, uma posicionada, e essa organização acontece, o Theratogs vai fazer a mesma coisa que a mão do fisioterapeuta ou do pai. E about in your life, in your lifetime with therapy, every kid who use Theratogs need orthosis, or is the Theratogs is better with orthosis or not?
Every child isn't the same. So if a child needs orthoses, the orthoses must be provided if they're good ones, if they're correct, if they're made well. There are a lot of issues around orthoses.
Yes, in
And
Brazil we do have.
And I started off with making cast boots and orthoses long before I ever thought of Theratogs. And feet always make a difference. Feet, that's your body ground interface. So you must have the foot aligned in order to get the rest of the body to line up. So if you have a child using Theratogs whose feet are not aligned, they'll be compromised. But if you can align the foot first, provide a base of support, it's like building a house. You put good footings in the ground, and then you build the body above it. You build the house over the footings. So I would say that if the child needs orthoses, he should have orthoses. They really do come first. Theratogs would be the house you build on the orthosis. They would be the structure, and they give you much more alignment if the feet are aligned first. But if the feet don't need alignment, you don't need the orthosis.
I think we'll have to have a video only about orthosis, because this is a very good issue that we have here in Brazil, and it's not very well talked, I think, and discussed in Brazil. And I think for me, one of the biggest learning that you bring into Brazil to the therapist was that change of thinking about the feet, about the alignment, base of support. And I think we deserve a video just about walking and orthosis and how we should build that house from the ground. So I have a question that I have a lot of parents made a lot for me, and it's when do I have to start using Theratogs? Where's the best timing to do it?
Well, if your physicians were to identify the children with cerebral palsy or in trouble, the children who might have cerebral palsy, if they identify them very early, they should be able to tell by the time the child is 4 months of age whether or not he is doing well organizing his body. And if they could get referred at 4 months of age and the therapist begins to build in body alignment that's normal for 4-month-old babies, then that would be the time to start with Theratogs. I've actually done so with my clients in Colorado, got early referrals. We use Theratogs and movement training, focusing on alignment, focusing on optimizing the base of support, keeping the children aligned with Theratogs. And each of these children has wound up resolving what we thought was going to be cerebral palsy. But that was a really early start, and that's a real privilege. It's a privilege to have a baby come that young, and the therapist must understand what to do to have a baby come that young. But that's the earliest.
There is just thinking, so 4 months would be great if you have the
If your kids were referred at 4 months and the therapist knew what to do, yes.
And do you think with Theratogs we'll be able to prevent bones deformity?
If you can manage to maintain the body alignment in a way that's supposed to be true for the child that age. So a baby who is 7 months old should sit up very straight. If your baby can be sat up very straight, he's going to learn how to use his muscles because they work that way. They work based on alignment. So if the baby's aligned and builds control of his trunk, he won't need his limbs to balance. If the baby doesn't need his limbs to balance, they won't get tight. If the limbs get tight because they're balancing all day, the bones get deformed. The muscles get deformed. If we can build in postural control, balance within the trunk and neck so the child is actually competent in balance, he shouldn't need his limbs to balance. Babies don't. Typical babies don't do that. They balance with their trunk and they use their limbs because they have a trunk to work off of. That's the point of Theratogs for early intervention.
For like a 5-year-old kids, we can think about the same building that you just mentioned about the limbs, and if you already have some contractures on the muscles or the feet, on the difficult feet and stuff, do you think the Theratogs will work like you just told us about the work on the baby?
Yes, I think that's a good question. The Theratogs are going to have a bigger job to do. Everything that we do all day, everything everybody does all day, gets mapped in the brain. So we lay down neuroplasticity means your brain is going to adapt to what you're doing because it says, I do this a lot, so let's make a track. Let's make that happen in my track so I don't have to work so hard at doing it anymore. I've got a brain track. So there's a white matter in the brain. So the baby by 5 years of age who has been doing things with confusion, without trunk control, incompetently, but really trying to stay upright because everybody does, then that child can't unlearn what he knows, has to learn all new. So everything that the child learns new does get mapped, but eventually it has to win over everything he already knew, which was kind of wrong. Didn't work that well. So the older you start, the tougher it is. But the point is that everybody's going to map their brain anyway.
Yeah.
That you should learn something new that works better because you're learning something better. But you have to practice a lot to gain new skills.
There is a slide that you always shows on your classes is how many base of support changes that a baby does on his early age.
Right.
So this is very in my heart because every time I talk to a parent, I always use those slides to express what they need to know. Good. So can you talk about how many? Yeah. Just the numbers, because it's impressive the numbers that we need to do before we start to walk or start to do another movement correctly.
You're right. Well, it was Karen E. Adolph in New York City, who is a student of motor learning. She's a professor at NYU. And she is the one that led this study where they actually put little microprocessors in babies' shoes. And the babies were just beginning to pull to stand and cruise at furniture. So what the microprocessor did was register a little click if the baby took the weight off of a shoe down to 3 pounds or less. What's that, 5 kilos or something? Less. And then click. So if the baby didn't even have to pick up the shoe, he just had to offload it a little bit so that it doesn't carry full body weight. Click. Click. Every weight shift. Click. Every weight shift. Click. So the shoes are registering clicks for every weight transfer. Mom's counting all the hours baby's awake. So for the time period that the baby is beginning to cruise at furniture, starting to take a couple of steps, that very, very early pre-walking period, the clicks are getting counted and the hours are getting counted, and after the baby's walking by himself, walks away, they plugged the shoes into a box, they counted up the clicks, they divided by the hours the baby was awake. And it found out that the baby takes between 500 and 1,500 weight shifts every waking hour, learning to step away from the sofa. 500 to 1,500 weight shifts every waking hour means, well, what if the baby's riding in a car, riding in a stroller, eating lunch, getting carried around? Maybe standing up 2 to 3 hours a day. So now we're talking 2 or 3 hours into 1,500 clicks. And you're talking about 3,000 to 5,000 weight shifts per standing hour. That's the kind of training that typical babies put themselves through just to be able to get ready to take some steps alone. And after that, they're going to fall 17 times an hour for the next 5 or 6 months. So this is typical development. What we expect of children with cerebral palsy is that we give them therapy, boom, they're fixed. Yeah. Then they walk. Like somehow there's a magic trick.
Magic.
Typical babies don't have magic tricks. Typical babies put themselves through enormous rigors to learn how to get strong, where to carry their body weight, what works for them that keeps them upright, and how to move within that context. It's an enormous learning curve. So I think we have to be more fair to our children with cerebral palsy and honest with our parents to say, I can't fix this in a therapy session. I can't fix this in a month of intensive. I can't do all this work for your baby who needs years and years to gain these skills, even if his wasn't in compromised condition with his brain.
So after all that we talk about, what will be the advice you give to the parents and for the professionals too about Theratogs, base of support, training? What will be your best advice you can give to the parents? What he needs to know?
My best advice to the parents is that as much as I wish and have looked all my life for a magic wand, as much as I wish I had one, as much as I hope you will find one, right now there isn't one. There is no cutting muscles, There's no cutting nerves. There's no slicing through fascia.
Botox.
There's no magic. There's no Botox. There's no poison. There's no toxin. There's no fix. There isn't magic. What we need to do together is help your child learn to align his body, keep it there, balance his trunk and hips, help him stabilize, use his trunk for balance instead of his limbs, use his limbs for movement instead of his trunk. There's just a lot of learning that needs to go on, and we need you to help us with that, because together, if we understand that, if your baby is in good alignment, he'll learn good alignment. If your baby's practicing balance in effective ways, he'll learn to balance. If you stay on the right side of alignment and movement, there'll always be progress. It may be slower than you wish, it may be slower than we wish, but we want to optimize this child's chances to have a body that works for him at the highest possible level. So my advice is to please, please forget about the magic wands and please join us in this job. So I gave you a system you can use in Theratogs. It could take 5 to 10 minutes to put on in the morning. You know, it depends on how many straps we ask you to use. We try to keep that to a minimum because we know it's complex. But the point is, if I can give you a system that at least gives your child a better body, better trunk control, better alignment through the trunk, already he's in therapy all day. Already you've done a great deal to help your child gain postural control, the balance, the fundamental skills he needs to learn better how to shift his body weight and move. And that, of course, if you have a child that's at the level 5 who is unfortunately in very severe condition, we can only hope that you'll keep him in alignment, because that will help him keep his bones and joints from getting deformed and keep him more comfortable. We can't expect everybody to come to level 1, which is the highest level of function, just because we worked on it. We have to work within some limits of the available healthy brain tissue, plus the kind of experiences the child's able to have. So with that, we all want to optimize your child's possibilities, but it simply takes understanding. He needs a good base of support, he needs a functioning body alignment, he needs feet that align up, he needs a trunk that lines up, and we need to be able to help him acquire the skills to hold those postures. So that's a tall order. This was a big job that you took on when you brought this child to us, and that child came to you. So we'll give you every chance we can to do the best for him or for her.
So, guys, muito obrigada por estarem aqui mais uma vez conosco, com a Fisiovital, mais uma ótima entrevista com a Beverly Cusick. Eu acho que o que vocês precisarem saber mais sobre Theratogs, sobre bases de suporte, a gente vai estar soltando vários vídeos sobre o desenvolvimento neurofuncional das crianças, para que você, melhor pai, possa entender o que nós da Fisiovital estamos buscando para ajudar e para trabalhar juntos, tá? Então foi um prazer mais uma vez. Thank you very much, Billy. I love when you came. I love work with you. I love Theratogs. O Theratogs para mim é muito importante porque na realidade a Fisiovital nasceu por causa do Theratogs, né? Há 10 anos atrás a gente abriu a empresa porque minha irmã precisava do Theratogs. Eu entrei em contato com a Billy, com o Theratogs, e a gente começou a estudar e trazer o Theratogs para o Brasil. Então, o meu contato com a Billy são 10 anos de amizade, de trabalho juntos e de muito curso e de muita informação. Realmente nos ajudou muito a nós, a várias crianças e a vários profissionais. E agora a gente está querendo trazer todas essas informações para você, pai, para vocês poderem entender um pouquinho melhor sobre qual é o nosso trabalho, o que a gente busca, qual é o futuro que a gente quer para o seu filho e até para o Brasil, no sentido de modificação de pensamento, de neuromotor, de base de suporte, de tudo isso. Então, muito obrigada por estarem aqui conosco. Um grande beijo. Thank you very much, my dear.
I'd like to thank Juliana, too, since I first met her years ago. She's been 100% for improving the lives of children in Brazil with all kinds of handicaps. And her heart is in the right place. She's really behind your child.
Thank you very much.